If you're in New York City, if you're a down on your luck twink, you're crying every night, doing unspeakable things for rent, 60-year-old art dealers use your body as a petri dish, you need the SX4.
We have the best design, and it's the best. So now all they make is the fucking Corvette!
Some people shouldn't be allowed to hold a pencil. The Japanese, they had a nuclear bomb dropped on them, Jet. They have to make cartoons. Their idea of what you do to like brand a gas station was make it look like a present box.
No!
Sam, what's the next car you're eyeballing for your collection?
I gotta make an even worse decision. Get a 430 Scuderia. What do you think? It's ugly too.
It's ugly?
Yeah.
Why do you want it?
It's the right kind of ugly, in my opinion.
I don't think it's that ugly. I think it's like, it doesn't stick out as...
It's not a pretty car at all.
Yeah.
The rear end especially, this taillight assembly, has a strange kind of like Japanese mecha manga illustration style of integrated, of the components being not fully integrated. Like this strip right here with the vents and this the way the seam here from the lip spoiler and this like trunk piece of carbon fiber is so obvious. I like that a lot. It's just strange looking. The best sounding car of all time is the 355, Ferrari 355. It's not possible to argue with that. But the 355, the maintenance costs on that are probably outside of my ability to pay for and or deal with stress-wise. So this car sounds kind of good, but it's more mechanically reliable. And it also has an aggressive paddle shift, so it's not a dual clutch. I hate dual clutch transmissions. They're awful. But single clutch, paddle shifted automatic transmissions, if they're tuned aggressively, like in an Aventador, the older Aventadors, or I've heard this car, they do sound kind of cool, and I do like them. The one that was stunning to me is the Ferrari Roma. People are looking at this car and saying that it's a stunning design, that it's a beautiful car. The Italian psyche is disturbed at its core, has a kernel of neurosis, a kernel of doubt, of a hateful spark plug at the center of the Italian psyche.
Yeah.
Okay, they have a trauma, a generational cultural trauma, much in the same way that the Japanese, they have eels, they put eels in their vaginas and they do all this crazy stuff. They had a nuclear bomb dropped on them, Jet.
That's how they deal with it.
They lost the war via having 2 million people wiped out in an explosion or whatever. They have to make cartoons with little cat ears and fruity ass a mushroom sucking a dog's dick. Their psyche has been irreparably damaged and scarred. The Italians are much the same. The Mitsuoka Orochi. I appreciate the Japanese fondness for sexual affiliation with eels, but I don't need to see the end result of it on my car here. This is okay. Shape's not bad. It's ugly. It's ugly enough that it's provides the viewer with a talking point. It's not ugly in an unintentional way. I think the guy that was designing that was probably looking at Guyver bodysuits when he did it. He's probably looking at a bunch of these types of things. This is cool. Yeah, I'd drive that car. I would drive this car.
Hey, Sam, do you remember talking about Korean industrial design? Basically said they try and fail to copy America and have no swag.
The thing about the Japanese is that the Japanese do have thousands of years of effectively what is, it's not exactly, but it's analogous to product design.
Yeah.
The Japanese have teapots, armor, tools, swords, interior design. They have, tatami mats, tea ceremony shit. They've got everything. The Koreans have up until Korea industrialized, they had horse archers. Barely, they had a pot, one clay pot. Yeah. That's all they ever made. If you look at ancient Korea, the rich, the upper class, the elite Koreans, they would have these fabrics, basically fantastic floral fabrics. And then the regular people had like a single pot made of like compressed guano, like dung, like this right here. Like 1,000 years ago, this every Korean family would have one of these. This is like a chunk. It's like a chunk of rock, and this was a tool. They would use this tool. They would put the grain in this, and then they would use this rock to like smash apart coconuts and stuff. And then the emperors or whatever the they had, they would have like a like thin gold. This hat right here, that's like a party toy.
Yeah.
And that's like you win that in an arcade. Like it's that type of like thin gold. And then you can't really hate on the fabrics. The fabrics are very nice, but everything else is this sort of like chintzy. Like it's not there. The way that the Korean mind like conceptualized objects that are for use in daily life it's not the same as Japanese people. So when World War II comes around, or when industrialization comes around, the Japanese very quickly, like immediately, figure out what it is, and they're like, oh, we'll do American muscle car but smaller because we're smaller and our cities are smaller. So we make 240Z, right? Like they make this, and it's completely beautiful. It's Japanese. It's smaller. It's the way they do things. This stance of mine, I remember. This is from talking to a guy who was a very big deal industrial designer who was hired by the Korean government, like in the 80s, to help them figure out how to not make gas stations shaped like gift boxes. Like he went there and they would like their idea of what you do to like brand a gas station was make it look like a present box. It just a crackpot. It's like the Dark Souls type thing, and it's not to hate on Koreans or something. It's just that for thousands of years they didn't know. They don't have a history of making like objects that you use beyond a stick to like whatever their culture was, like using sticks, pots, rocks, whatever that culture was, sticks, rocks, pots, it's like this. I should be a Korean history teacher. Yeah, basically 1,200 years ago they were like boom, 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 and they had like that, and the fabrics are good. That's my class. You just took Korean history class. The Italians in the 70s and 80s, there were what you would call coach builders, I guess, or design houses. So 𝐒𝐿. These idiots. These Italian idiots. In the 70s and 80s, Ferrari, Lamborghini, on an upward trajectory, making ever more exotic and beautiful creations. The late 80s, the F40, they're making these things with like bird cage welded frames, mid-engine, extremely exotic, pioneering carbon fiber, et cetera, et cetera. The designers, the Italian designers who are not involved in these projects, they're kind of sitting on the sidelines, basically getting cucked, okay? They don't have the opportunity. You can't have 10 different Italian supercars being sold in the late 80s and 90s, okay? There's only 2 that can really make it, and everybody else is sitting on the sidelines. So these other designers, they're sitting there. They're like,
we have the best design. The design is the best. What do we do, Mario? We can't put it in the car. We have to put it in the car.
And occasionally they'll get thrown a bone. They'll get to make the
Fiat. They want the design of the X919.
Make this awful piece of shit. This silly little Billy. But what a lot of them did was they said, you know what I'll do? We'll just reskin a Corvette. So there's mad fucking Italian beautiful supercars, high-end, highest culture in the world, the best.
We are the best. Faccia, we are the best. Vaffanculo. Hey, we are the best in the world.
Okay? And they're making a fucking Corvette. They're making a fucking $500,000 Corvette.
Fuck you!
And this trend carried on from fucking 75, Zagato Corvette edition. And they're still doing it. Would you pay $1.5 million for this Corvette C7 Z06 based ISO Revolta GT Zagato? No! 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 And I was trying to put together,
what idiot? What f***ing idiot
looks at this, which is
Obviously a fucking Corvette. And by the way, that psychic scar, it's no longer the little guys, it's carried over. So now all they make is the fucking Corvette. These pasta gobbling, marinara sauce drinking boneheads. It's the best design in the world. This is $1 million car. You look like a fucking high school baseball coach on the way to pick up kids in a C5. What a stupid travesty. Oh, what's this? I wonder what car was used as the basis for this one. You can hardly tell. I can hardly tell what's under that gorgeous Italian carbon fiber skin. I can hardly tell what's underneath. Who could it be? They must have made this from the mist. Oh, I wonder what that is. God damn. That's an Aston Martin. Or as I call it, a Corvette. This is ugly junk. Not to mention it's a Corvette, not to mention the belt line's too high, not to mention it's bloated, which is obviously a national highway safety thing. When I look at a car, $1 million car, and the first thing I think is some national highway safety official going over the fenders, it should be this high. It's just crazy. Korean car design, it's weird because they weren't communist.
Yeah.
But their design, it almost, if you ever see Soviet product design, like the Soviets, the Soviet stuff is so weird. They had such a history of artistry. Some of the most fantastic, unbelievable animation, filmmaking, poster art, propaganda comes from Soviet countries. But then cars, like they just made these weird boxes that have, obviously they have charm, they have value as collector's items, whatever, like Lada, Yugo, all the Soviet cars, but they're like, in terms of what they actually are, if you strip away the context, they're shit. And
I like how they look. They're like very utilitarian. It's like they just view that. That might be just because they view them as like just tools.
That's part of the context. Like the context is what makes them beautiful or interesting.
Yeah.
But without that, they're really terrible. Yeah. And there's something about Korean transit vehicle design that has smacks of the same kind of thing. Yeah. No, I think Ferrari should collaborate with LG or whoever makes like smart fridges.
Yeah.
This is a car. Listen, if you're in New York City, if you're a down on your luck twink who's doing unspeakable things for rent, you're basically letting 60-year-old art dealers use your body as a petri dish. You're crying every night because your ass is so destroyed and your dignity is gone, and no one's buying your artwork, and you're doing nude modeling. You're just in the throes of a 90s New York City club kid hellscape of drugs and gayness. This would be a great car to buy to get your life back together and get on the right track, which I think is why they put a cape on it. Mm-hmm. They designed this after watching the 𝐒𝐈𝐒 documentary. This gay club kid who killed somebody and went to prison and had the best sex of his life. But they made like a sad documentary about him. So they were watching this and they said, "Oh, we need to design a car for this guy when he gets out of prison to help him get back on his feet." So they made the SX4 for $16,000. It's the cheapest car you can get. The Suzuki SX4.
That's what he's hearing and says.
Once he gets clean, yeah. Right now he's listening to like Rammstein, and it's great for picking your life up after 10 years of drugs and gay prostitution in New York City. Na 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 na. For when you're in crisis. Are you in crisis? You need the SX4. Are you experiencing a crisis right now? Get an SX4. The nicer they make the screens, they have the TFT displays now. The better the screen is, the more it like rubs me the wrong way. I really, really don't vibe with screens in cars. This shocked me. This picture, you can't tell from this picture. The center dash is a TFT, which is the brightest, most high-end, like blaring in your face screen. The touchpad in the center is just an older like LCD thing. So when you're driving this, the center console is like blasting you in the face with Ferrari branding, tachometer, Apple Play. You plug your phone in, you can't see anything except Apple Play. And then this little screen here is showing you something completely different at a lower intensity, lower view quality. That's just one of the cheapest things I've seen on a new car. I think the designer of this should be killed, by the way. The Gumpert Apollo is fucked. This is the one with the wing that rotates with the car. I think it's got some sort of active aero. Ugly in a way that only a Dutchman could conceive of. Although, by comparison to the normal cars that people make, it's not that bad. Roland Gumpert, Marco Veneta. One half of Milli Vanilli is the designer who made this one. And he's, what can I say? This guy's a god when it comes to design. Some people shouldn't be allowed to hold a pencil, though. If I was making a video game and someone came to me with a 3D model that looked like this, I'd say, you have to design something else.
Looks like a car from like Crackdown.
Yeah, this guy's a real idiot. Although the gull wing doors are cool. And I mean, generally the proportions of it are kind of good. Like if it didn't have a hideous features, the proportions are cool. I like that. You know, if you cover up the headlights, it's almost not bad looking. But gull wing doors, I think, you got to have those on every car.